Cat's cops in C4. You know how sometimes writing can get away from you and the story writes itself? It did it again. I no longer know what is going on. What the pits is wrong with you? The woman demands as she glares up at Chink. Alfar, business formal, absorbed in her communicator to the point that this is likely her first interaction in the here and now in numerous city blocks. Look, I'm not in the mood for some little boy's hissy fit right now. I have a lot of work to... This is a restricted area, ma'am. You just walked through a police cordon, Linda says, and Chink says nothing as the elf-looking woman takes stock of her situation once again. She leans to the side to try and get a look at the crime scene, and Chink moves to block her. She looks up at him again and blinks. Oh, a human. He simply nods. She stands up and brushes herself off before retrieving her communicator. He then moves to block her view of the murder scene again. It's rather gruesome, ma'am. You don't want to see it, Linda says, and the woman gives them an odd look. I see. I'll be going around then. A moment, please. Do you often use this alleyway? Of course. It's a shortcut that often has me meeting up with a friend of mine. A Miss Hallis by any chancing? Chink asks as a sudden bit of insight dawns. Yes. How did... Oh no. She rushes at him and he catches her. But without hurting the woman, it's more or less impossible to stop her from seeing the corpse. No! Ma'am, please! We can't taint the crime scene, Chink says, wrestling her away from things. The woman is instinctively pulling in on Axiom and giving him the kind of fight that you'd normally expect from a hippo. Minus the horrific maiming. No, not like this. Gina never hurt anyone. Why would this happen? Why? Ma'am, please, Chink says. I know you're upset, but you need to keep your head on straight. If we're going to catch who did this to Gina, then the more help the better. She makes a final lunge attempt, but Chink is pulling on the Axiom too now, and she'd have better luck trying to pick up the spire than moving him. Then she collapses against him while sobbing. He gives Linda and the officer a pleading look. Linda nods and the officer offers her thumbs up. This gets a glare from him, and there's an answering smirk. Well, nothing to do but bite the bullet then. Come on, miss, let's sit you down and maybe you can answer a few questions. Like what? The woman asks as Chink leads her away, and then opens the door to Linda's patrol car to let her sit on the seat. Were you planning on meeting with Gina today? Chink asks after he activates the record feature of his communicator to start the body cam trick. Yes, I was running late and was trying to balance a dozen things. I'm probably losing money now, but I don't really care. She says, all right, and if you weren't late, would you have met up with Gina in the last half hour or so? Yes. Chink considers. Oh no, do you think I might have been a target? I think that if you were on time, there may very well be 2 murders in this alleyway. Whether or not you were a target is anyone's guess. Oh, she says. Ma'am, I realize that this is late and I'm going to get a dressing down for forgetting this until now, but may I hear your name for the record? Chunk asks, and there's a slight but brittle smile from the woman. My name is Hart Nabofrin, she says before he nods. And were these meetups a habit or more spontaneous? A habit. We both have some time around the same time, so, Hart begins. You take time to be together, he says with a nod before standing up a little taller to speak with the others. Her hand reaches out and grabs him by the shirt. You find who did this. Do you hear me? You find who killed her and bury her in Hypercrete, or I will, she tells him, and he raises an eyebrow. Ma'am, we have rules. We'll take them alive to face justice if possible. And how does it not become possible? If you'll calm the hell down, you'll know the answer yourself, Chink says as he hears a familiar engine and looks to the side. And forensics is here. They set down quickly and there's a rush of drones in an unusual hurry. No less than 5 beams in different color spectrums sweep over the area. And they're excited. Detective score! Has there been any disturbance of the body? Anything removed? Small animals are being chased away, more or less constantly. To the carbon! Has there been a serious reduction to her ashes? Ilari outright snaps at her. No, the wind has been moving in such a way that the buildings are providing cover. Why? What's going on? Not now. Theories are for the mind and notes, not for sharing in public, Ilari exclaims and Chink sighs. Is she going to do something wrong? What? No, she's good at her job. I just don't like her personally. Oh, why not? She takes offense at things and refuses to tell me what. Thankfully, she's not petty enough to sabotage me, so I return that favor and we just keep things at a low simmer between us. Passion-wise, anger is a passion, Cenk notes blandly. Oh, Hart says, relax. She's a professional. She'll do a far better job than most people on this overpopulated rock of planet. Aw, that's the nicest thing you've said about her in a while, Linda teases as she saunters over. Sure, Cenk remarks as he scans the area. Something is… it's gone. Something wrong? I felt something for a moment, Cenk says. The neck hairs? Linda asks him and he nods. It's already gone, but… I'm going to do a sweep of the area. Can you stay with Miss Nebofrin? Sure, just keep your communicator recording, she says, and he gives her a kiss on the cheek, and Hart seems surprised. You two are affectionate? But I didn't feel anything in the axiom and that… Oh wait, right, humans don't connect into it, Hart asks, grasping onto a distraction from her murdered friend, like a drowning woman grabbing onto driftwood. Oh, when we first met it was not a good time. Thankfully the files are unsealed so I can tell you all about it, Linda says, and Hart nods eagerly. With Linda handling the distraught civilian specialist, Barnabas begins scanning the area with a steely gaze. Something got his guard up. Looking at dismembered and defiled body doesn't do that. Being jumped on by a violently playful Vera doesn't do that. Sparring with Melan doesn't do that. Staring down the 5-alarm chili challenge in the mess hall doesn't do that. Actual hostility and danger does that. There is a crowd gathering, but this area is a little further off the main thoroughfare than Miss Alrian's house. So it's not as bad as before. He walks around a bit and seems to find the sort of area that he thinks that bit of nerves came from. Then he starts looking around for cameras. This is a public area on the higher tier of a central spire. There are cameras for days here. He brings out his communicator and, still recording, starts going through an app that shows him what cameras are watching him. He then records all that as he does a general sweep. He'll pull up the information from all those cameras and maybe get a glance of who or what gave him that brief moment of the creeping horrors. The phrase "stepped over one's grave" applies. But this had been so quickly and so light, it was like someone almost stepped on his grave and then veered away. The caution makes it all the more intriguing. Find what you were looking for? I thought I felt something for a moment, so I got a good list of the cameras. I'll see if we can't spot someone suddenly showing up and glaring hard enough to get my backup, Cenk says as he tucks his communicator back into place. Excuse me a minute, Ilari says, walking over. Step aside, monkey, we don't need your stink distracting her. I've got a mini totem keeping it contained. Cenk notes as he flicks the tiny nub earring he has in his left side, but steps away anyways. Miss Nebofrin, right? Ilari asks. Yes. Off the top of your head, do you know what exactly your friend Miss Hallis was investing in that was being insured? Buildings and some businesses. She was mostly a landlady that controlled a series of different houses and office buildings. She said it was the easiest job ever, get everything working right with the repair crews, secretaries, and you only had to sign the occasional form to have money shoveled into your bank account. Is the residence of one Miss Alrian one such property? I don't know. We're friends, but we never talk business much. We like the same entertainment, and both use Solid Security Incorporated to keep track of and insure our assets. We became friends when we learned we like to eat at the same place, and it was overcrowded, so we had to sit together. A bit of recognition of seeing each other at Solid Security, and we started talking. We've been friends since. But she was here on vacation. Technically, Gina never really took breaks. She often said that being a proper investor is one of those jobs that you're never away from, as you're a call away if some disaster happens. Does she own any property on this spire? Ilari asks. No, but I do. Hart replies before her eyes widen. Was she killed in my place? We're not even the same species. There's no way of knowing. Although I doubt anyone could mistake a latrine for an Alfar without serious help from brain damage or intoxicants. Considering the MO, I don't think those can be ruled out. It's the work of a really sick puppy, Chunk mutters to himself. Stop listening in on conversations and make yourself useful. I'm muscle. I'm being useful by being ready to kick ass. If the killer comes back right now, blade swinging, plasma firing, then I'm going to stop it, Cenk protests. Can this not happen now? Please. How did you even get considered for a detective? By going through the legal training? Need I remind you that I'm the foremost expert on chemical explosives on the force? Oh yes, the sabotage expert is good with explosives. What a shock. Don't you have a wall to reduce to rubble? Ilari asks, and Chunk gives her a glare. Shoo! He rolls his eyes, but complies. It's not worth it. It's pointless and just another thing she hates about him. As he finds a new place to linger and scan the slowly growing crowd, he also texts the computer division back at the station, asking for the past few hours on all the cameras on his list. The confirmation makes him smirk, and he sends his thanks before repocketing the communicator and looking around more. Then he hears a scream, and he moves. Down the block, around a corner, and into a public park. A small gathering of exceptionally bushy trees hides the still choking and gasping body of the latest victim. For a moment, his eyes trace the trail he knows they went down. Then they go back to the civilian woman, an Arumenta girl, and she's definitely a girl and not a grown woman. His mind is made up. He goes for the girl. Less than a minute later, Linda arrives to find him holding the still-living torso of an Ice Arumenta teenager who's taking slow and shuddering breaths as Chink holds her around the stomach and on the top of the head, effectively pinning the girl still as he visibly uses Axiom to keep her alive. His presence is purest will. No panic, no fear, no rage or resentment. His everything is being overwritten by a will so solid that comparing it to steel or stone seems lacking. Get the best healers here now. We can still save her. She's already holding down the emergency medical button on her police communicator. Full regeneration is needed right now. Our victim is missing over half her body and most of her blood. She's alive by direct Axiom intervention only. We're on our way. We're tracking your communicator. Just breathe, child. Nice and slow. In and out. Focus only on each breath and nothing else. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, Chunk says in a soft tone as he tries to keep the shock and panic from doing even more damage. He has the child in an effective half Nelson with this move to stop her from flailing and ruining this last-second panic bit of madness. He's directly oxygenating her body, but that will only last so long. If his mind slips from his understanding on how it works, she's going to die. If she panics, she's going to die. If the steady breaths falter, she's going to die. If the killer comes back, she's going to die. He doesn't know how long he can keep this up, but he refuses to falter in the slightest. He is Specialist Cenk Barnabas of the Undaunted. He's better than the best of the best.